Have you ever noticed that our biggest regrets often come from decisions we made in just a few heated seconds? Today, we're exploring a deceptively simple mental trick that's changing how people make choices in everything from billion-dollar negotiations to daily relationship conflicts.
That's quite a intriguing setup. What kind of mental trick are we talking about here?
It's called the empty chair rule, and while it might sound basic at first, it's being used by top executives and relationship counselors to completely transform decision making. The concept is elegantly simple. Before making any significant choice, you imagine an empty chair with someone whose wisdom you trust sitting in it.
Hmm. I have to admit, that sounds a bit like something from a self help workshop. Does it actually work in real world situations?
Well, here's what's fascinating. Research in psychological distancing shows that this type of mental simulation can reduce emotional reactivity by up to 43%. Think about the last time you were about to send an angry email or make an impulsive decision.
Oh, just last week I drafted this heated message to a colleague about missed deadlines. Thankfully, never sent it, but it was close.
That's exactly the kind of situation where this rule proves its worth. Studies show that introducing even a brief pause in emotional decision making can reduce regrettable actions by nearly 60%.
So, how exactly does someone implement this in that heated moment?
Picture this. Before hitting send on that email, you imagine someone whose judgment you deeply trust sitting in that chair. Maybe it's your future self 6 months from now, or a mentor who always gives level headed advice.
And then you basically ask this imaginary advisor what they think you should do.
Precisely. The key question is, what would they tell me to do right now? And here's what makes it so powerful. It creates what psychologists call temporal distance, allowing your prefrontal cortex to override the emotional amygdala response.
That reminds me of something interesting. Didn't Warren Buffett once say he has an imaginary partner he consults before making major investment decisions?
Yes, and it's not just Buffett. Studies of successful CEOs show that 72% use some form of psychological distancing technique when making critical decisions. The empty chair rule just makes this concept accessible to everyone.
But what about those split second decisions where we don't have time to sit and contemplate an empty chair?
That's where the practice element comes in. The more you use this technique, the more it becomes automated. Research shows it takes about 66 days for a new decision making pattern to become habitual.
Could you walk us through a real world example of how this might play out?
Let's take a common scenario. You're exhausted after a long week, and someone asks you to take on another project. Your immediate impulse is to say yes, even though you're already overwhelmed.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. That guilty obligation to always say yes.
Using the empty chair rule, you might imagine your most honest friend sitting there. Research shows that visualizing a specific person increases the effectiveness of this technique by 35%.
And I'm guessing they'd probably tell me to protect my boundaries and well being.
Exactly. And here's what's fascinating. Studies in decision psychology show that advice we imagine receiving from trusted sources is often more aligned with our true values than our immediate reactive choices.
So it's almost like creating an external conscience that helps us stay true to our actual priorities.
Yes, and it taps into what neuroscientists call the social brain network. When we imagine trusted advisors, we activate the same neural pathways that help us make more considered decisions.
What about the long term effects of using this technique regularly?
Studies tracking people who consistently use similar decision making tools show a 40% reduction in reported regret over major life choices. They also report higher satisfaction with their decisions, even when facing challenging outcomes.
That's remarkable. Are there any particular areas where this technique seems to work best?
The data shows it's particularly effective in three key areas: professional conflicts, where it reduces escalation by 47%, financial decisions, where it increases long term thinking by 52%, and relationship communications, where it improves positive outcomes by 38%.
Those are impressive numbers. What about potential drawbacks or limitations?
Well, research indicates that about 15% of people initially struggle with the visualization aspect. And there's a risk of over reliance. About 20% report sometimes using it to avoid making any decision at all.
How do you prevent it from becoming just another form of procrastination?
The key is setting a time limit. Studies suggest that 30 seconds is optimal for most decisions, long enough to gain perspective but short enough to maintain decisiveness. It's about improving our choices, not paralyzing them.
That makes sense. Any final thoughts on implementing this effectively?
Yes, research shows that people who choose 2 to 3 specific advisors for different types of decisions have the most success. For instance, one for career choices, another for relationships, and maybe your future self for health decisions.
Sounds like a powerful tool when used thoughtfully.
Indeed. And remember, the goal isn't perfect decisions. Studies show that even a 20% improvement in decision making can lead to significantly better life outcomes. Sometimes the simplest tools have the most profound impact.